Janavallabha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Vaskriptya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhiraye. Before we're starting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayana Rishi, supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva. Ashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu. I'm so sorry, let's do them together. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati by regular classes of the Bhagavatam and by rendering the service to the devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of God, whose praise was transcendental songs, is established as a miracle. Hare Krishna. Nice to see all of you. Nice to be back. I'm not here for your regular Bhagavatam classes, but I occasionally see the live stream, so thank you for putting that up. And I know you're going through the third canto, and a lot of it is about Brahma, Asian, and we're continuing that today with chapter 10. And there's two verses of focus, which is verse 5 and 6, that have really, really nice purports that I want to get into. But let's see, the way we'll do this, I guess we can go through the translations, starting from verse 1 to verse 10. Volunteers to start.
I said, "O great sage, please let me know how Brahma, the grandfather of the planetary inhabitants, created the bodies of the living entities from his own body and mind, after the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of God."
Oh greatly learned. Kindly eradicate all my doubts and let me know of all that I have inquired from you from the beginning to the end.
Sutta Goswami said, O son of Bhrigu, the great sage Maitreya Muni, thus hearing from Vidura, felt very much enlivened. Everything was in his heart, and thus he began to reply to the questions one after another.
The greatly learned sage Maitreya said, O Vidura, Brahma thus engaged himself in penances for 100 celestial years, as advised by the personality of Godhead, and applied himself in devotional service to the Lord.
Thereafter, Brahma saw that both the lotus on which he was situated and the water on which the lotus was growing were trembling due to a strong, violent wind.
Long penance and transcendental knowledge of self-realization had matured Brahma in practical knowledge, and thus he drank the wind completely along with the water.
Thereafter, he saw that the lotus on which he was situated was spread throughout the universe, and he contemplated how to create all the planets which were previously merged in that very same lotus.
Thus engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Brahma entered into the whirl of the lotus, and as it spread all over the universe, he divided it into 3 divisions of worlds, and later into 14 divisions.
Lord Brahma is the most exalted personality in the universe because of his causeless devotional service unto the Lord in mature transcendental knowledge. He therefore created all 14 planetary divisions for inhabitation by the different types of living entities.
Vidura inquired from Maitreya, O my Lord, O greatly learned sage, kindly describe eternal time, which is another form of the Supreme Lord, the wonderful actor. What are the symptoms of that eternal time? Please describe them to us in detail.
We'll go to text number 5. We'll go over 5 and 6. We'll call and response with text 6, but I will read the Sanskrit with this, and the translation followed by the purport. Tad vilokya vajja sambhuto vayunayat adishtitaha padmam ambascha tatkala krita viryena kampitam. We'll do call and response with the next verse, but I want to read the translation and purport to this. Therefore, Brahma saw that both the lotus on which he was situated and the water on which the lotus was growing were trembling due to a strong, violent wind. Purport. The material world is called illusory because it is a place of forgetfulness of the transcendental service of the Lord. Thus, one engaged in the Lord's devotional service in the material world may sometimes be very much disturbed by awkward circumstances. There is a declaration of war between the 2 parties, the illusory energy and the devotee, and sometimes the weak devotees fall victim to the onslaught of the powerful illusory energy. Lord Brahma, however, was sufficiently strong by the causeless mercy of the Lord, and he could not be victimized by the material energy, although it gave him cause for anxiety when it managed to totter the existence of his position. And text 6. So we'll do call and response. Line by line. Tapasahi idamanena. Tapasahi idamanena. Vidyaya chatma samstaya. Vidyaya chatma samstaya. Vivrida Vijnana Balo. Vivrida Vijnana Balo. Yapad Vayum Samham Basha. Yapad Vayum Saham Basa. Please chant. Tapasahi Namani. Chatma samstaya Vivrida Vijnana Balo Napadvayum Sahambasa Tapasankiramanina Vidyaya Chatma samstaya Vivrida Vijnana Balo Napadvayum Sahambasa Tapasahidamanina Vivrida Vijnana Balo Yapadvayum Sahambasa. And do the word for word together, right? Okay. Tapasa, by penance. He, certainly. Edamanena, increasing. Vidyaya, by transcendental knowledge. Cha, also. Atma, self. Samstaya, situated in the self. Vivridha, mature. Vijnana, practical knowledge. Bala, power. Nyapat, drink. Vayum, the wind. Saha, misa, along with the water. Long penance and transcendental knowledge of self-realization had matured Brahma in practical knowledge, and thus he drank the wind completely, along with the water. Purport. Lord Brahma's struggle for existence is a personal example of the continued fight between the living entities in the material world and the illusory energy called Maya. Beginning from Brahma down to this age, the living entities are struggling with the forces of material nature. By advanced knowledge in science and transcendental realization, one can try to control the material energy, which works against our endeavors. And in the modern age, advanced material scientific knowledge and penance have played very wonderful roles in controlling the powers of the material energy. Such control of the material energy, however, can be most successfully carried out if one is a soul surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and carries out his order in the spirit of loving transcendental service. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Dinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vajrayane Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschita Deshitarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvescha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnava. This is Prabhupada very nicely takes what seems very esoteric and brings it to a point that's so practical. It is Brahma's situation, and he brings out his explanation is that, let's see, this is a difficulty, a struggle that Brahma is going through. And this struggle can be an analogy for every living entity struggle and our war against Maya. This is such a Prabhupada term. I love it so much. War against Maya. And I looked this up on Database, and that's what I found. Just the same exact sentence showed up like 6 or 7 times. Our Krishna consciousness movement is a declaration of war against Maya. Prabhupada said this so many in lectures and in letters. He would say it so often. And it really made me think that Srila Prabhupada is really like a general of an army. And he really he liked a good fight. He had a Kshatriya warrior, spiritual warrior spirit. But I kept thinking, what does this mean? A war, we're not fighting with Krishna. Maya is Krishna's energy. I'll quote one Church Prabhupada states, always remember the sort of duration of war, this illusory material nature. So there is war. She will always try to get you to fall down, referring to Maya. Daivihi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Jiratyaya. It is very strong, powerful. How can you save yourself? Mam eva ye prapadyante Maya metam tarantite. If you persistently simply adhere to the devotional service of Krishna, there will be no more strength of this illusory nature to drag you. I'll say it one more time. If you persistently simply adhere to the devotional service of Krishna, there will be no more strength of this illusory nature to drag you. Spiritual strength. In one of the purports earlier, Srila Prabhupada said, Lord Brahma, however, was sufficiently strong by the causeless mercy of the Lord, and he cannot be victimized by the material nature. By such control of the material nature, if one is a soul surrendered in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and carries out his order in the spirit of transcendental loving service, then he can overcome it. So the topic of today's class is a surrendered soul wins the war against Maya. And when I heard this as the topic, I thought it was such a far out sentence because it has so many parts that I think are worth understanding. I want to talk about what is Maya, what does it mean to be a surrendered soul, and what is this battle? So Maya, what comes to mind when I say the word Maya? Give some answers. What comes to your mind? What's definitions, thoughts, feelings? Maya. We have bogus. What else? The Matrix. Tampa. Distraction. Okay.
The hamster wheel in the head.
The hamster wheel in the head. Interesting. A web, the image of a web. Any images come to mind when you hear the word Maya? What image comes? And this is a word you probably hear 10, 20 times a day. So what comes to mind when you hear this? Look at one or two more. Nita. A beautiful lady. Hare Krishna. One more. Money. Oh my gosh. I heard this very nice one definition of Maya. Of course, Prabhupada talks about as illusory energy, and we know it's one of Krishna's potencies, but I thought this definition was so nice. Maya means literally that which is not. That which is not. Right? Illusion is that which is not, right? So it doesn't mean that this is the illusory potency which one coming into contact with as the living entity, we become convinced that that which is not is. And that's a problem because if your whole sense of reality is turned upside down, everything following that gets turned upside down too. How can we connect with that which is real if we believe that which is not is real, right? So there's an analogy of a snake and a rope. Have you heard this analogy, right? So I'll say it briefly. So if you see a snake and you think it to be a rope, it's very dangerous, right? This is Maya. It's not a rope, it's a snake. We think it's useful. This is a rope. I can use this. I can do so many things. But it's not a rope. It's a snake. It'll bite you. It's dangerous. Makes sense. But on the other hand, what if we see a rope, something which is useful that we're trying to use that will help us in the scenario we're in, but it's actually a snake? That's also Maya, right? We think it to be a snake, we run away, but no, this will help us. This is also Maya. So this is Maya is that which is not. Once I was in a class in at the Bhaktivedanta Manor, I was staying there and doing Bhakti Shastri, and there was a devotee who was giving the Bhagavatam class, and I was sitting near the front. And the only line I remember from the whole class, he goes, Not that relevant knows this. He goes, Maya is your best friend. And the guy in front of me was kind of dozing off. And he's like, what? What do you mean Maya is your best friend? He goes, Maya is your best friend. That's all I remember. And he goes, because a real friend is one who shows you the supreme friend. That's what he said. A real friend is one who can show you the supreme best friend, the Suhridam Sarvabhutana. So this way, for a devotee, they see Maya for what it actually is, what it actually isn't. Maya is an energy of Krishna. Actually, everything that Krishna creates is meant for our benefit. It's not a punishment. Of course, it's a web, like you mentioned, the imagery of a web. If you get caught up in Maya, if you get entangled, then this is a problem. We're getting affected by the illusory energy. We're seeing what's not actually real as real. But for a devotee who can see what reality is, and they can see that something is not reality, what's not reality helps them understand what is reality. Therefore, it's not looking at a rope and thinking of a snake and running away. It's seeing what it actually is. So Maya is, if we get caught up into it, we can't distinguish what's real and what's not. But if we see it as Krishna's energy, it becomes a tool. So for a devotee, Maya is a teacher. For a devotee, Maya is not scary. It serves a purpose, right? If we're trying to love and understand who is Krishna, it serves a purpose, and it makes a lot of sense. One person mentioned that temptation, or was it temptation? Someone mentioned temptation, or distraction. That was a distraction. So yes, totally. I equate distractions and temptations with Maya. So what about that? How does a surrendered soul win in the battle against temptations? How does a surrendered soul win in the battle against Maya? Some of your answers were very tempting. Money, not Tampa, but a few other things. Very tempting. I did a little research. Temptations over the last 15 years, from the year 2000 to 2015, distractions. The average human attention span can span anywhere from 2 seconds to 20 minutes. Really good if you're in a 20-minute range. The average human attention span is 8.25 seconds. This is a nearly 25% decrease in the last 15 years. Before the year 2000, it was 25% higher. So you can tell just the age we live in is so difficult not be distracted. I mean, literally, you'll be on your phone and I do this multiple times a day. I close my phone and 2 seconds later, I open it again for no reason. And it's like, why did I just do that? It's such a habit because we have such distraction machines constantly around us. We're bombarded with things that distract us. So how does a surrendered soul overcome these temptations? A temptation is only as tempting as you're not attached to something else. So you're only as tempted by something if your attachment to something else is not higher than that. So if I'm very attached to keeping a healthy weight, very attached to keeping my figure, temptation of that nice slice of cake would be easier to say no to than if I really didn't care what I looked like or what my body felt like, and I gave into the sense gratification. I gave into, no, I'll just eat it. Who cares about the consequence? If someone's very attached to their partner, if they have a strong emotional connection or attachment, there's a much less percentage, statistically speaking, that they'll have an affair. The number one cause of cheating or extramarital affairs is because it's not an emotional attachment. So if there's strong enough attachment, then the temptation is much weaker. So a devotee, a surrendered soul, that means surrender is not a one-time process. I'm surrendered today, for the rest of my life I'm surrendered. It's an everyday thing. And surrender means attachment to something divine, attachment to something sublime. If we have attachment to the process of Krishna consciousness, that process of Krishna consciousness will help us cross over this entanglement of Maya. This is very clearly stated in the verse, that this attachment to Krishna consciousness, a higher taste, every day we have to cultivate a higher taste, because every day these distractions will come up again and again in various ways. We overcome one distraction, another one will come. So every day, surrender is an everyday process. So I want to speak a little bit about what surrender is. In the verse in the purport, it's stated, such control of the material energy, however, can be most successfully carried out if one is a soul surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and carries out his order in the spirit of loving transcendental service. There's 3 verses in Bhagavad Gita which speak, at least to my knowledge, on surrender and specifically use the word either prapadyante or sharanam in the verse. The first one is 2.7. Does anyone recall that verse off the top of their head? Here's someone whispering it. Karpanya dosha. This is the verse where Arjuna is realizing that he can't do it on his own, that he's struggling, where he reaches out for help. It's first stage of surrender. Right? Shishyaste ham sadimam dvam prapannam. Right? Because of miserly weakness, I'm asking you, tell me what's best for me. Now I am your disciple, and a soul surrendered unto you. Shishyaste ham sadimam dvam prapannam. Please instruct me as a disciple. I'm asking you. This is the first step in surrender. Is I don't know. I need help. I need guidance. The day you first stepped into the temple and thought, okay, I'm here because I need something more than I have. That's surrender. The day you first received a book and thought, I will read this. I need something more than I currently have. That's surrender. These initial steps, the day you committed to the spiritual practice, perhaps the day you commit in front of your guru, these are steps in surrender, the preliminary, important, foundational steps. Later on in Bhagavad Gita, and it's very interesting that these verses are beginning, middle, and end. Daivihesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, divine energy, Maya is divine, comes from Krishna, is difficult to overcome. It's mama maya duratyaya. But those who have surrendered unto me, mam eva ye prapadyante, surrendered unto me, can easily cross beyond it. After the first step of surrender, after coming to a point where saying, I need help, I'm searching something more than I think I have myself, I'm putting myself in a humble position, we need the practice, we need sadhana bhakti, we need the process of devotional service. So after you've begun Krishna consciousness, you need to surrender to the process of devotional service. And this can help you cross over the ocean of samsara. This is the path now which we can progress upon to come to the final stage of surrender, which at the end of Bhagavad Gita, we all know this very important verse, Sarva dharman prityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashmi samasachaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Yes, this is full surrender. Sharanam Vraja. Krishna is saying, now you've heard everything about time, me, the world, material nature, so many things I've told you. I've even talked to you about surrender. You have surrendered preliminarily, told you about the process of devotional service. Now just forget every little doubt you have, all kinds of rituals you remembered. Just jump onto the Krishna train. Walk alongside with me and trust me. Now, if you trust me and walk alongside with me, I'll take you where you need to go. This is the final step. This is the step which is saying, now you have to have full faith, full trust. Even if that means I handle you roughly, even if that means by my embrace, it's very difficult. And you say, I'm surrendering, and now my mother or father has passed in an accident, or this horrible thing has happened, or I have cancer, this or that, and so many issues, but I'm trusting you, Krishna, I'm walking along with you. Vraja means to go, means to walk with. It also means the land of Vrindavan, the devotees of Krishna. And what do? They just walk with Krishna. Anything Krishna wants, they're there. They give up all varieties of religion, ideology, social norms. They give it up to be with Krishna. This is Vraja. This is Sharanam Vraja. This is surrender. And Mahaprabhu, he says this in his last verse of Sikshastakam. Such a hard verse to swallow. I know one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipable Lord, unconditionally. This is trust. It's no resistance, no fear, but trust. So this is Maya, this is surrendered soul. Talked about these two aspects. And what is this battle? And what is this trust in the will of God? This is, I think, text 6, right? Just scroll up just a little bit. Oops, sorry. This is the last sentence. Give me the last sentence a little more. Such control of the material energy, however, can be most successfully carried out if one is a soul surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and carries out his order in the spirit of loving transcendental service. How do we know his order? That's another big question, right? How do we know the will of God? I heard a very nice explanation of this. Spiritual life is not just following the word of God, but ultimately following the will of the devotee. Right? Spiritual life is not just following the word of God, but ultimately following the will of a devotee. Because the word of God is very easy to misinterpret. It's very easy to say, this doesn't really suit me, but I can think of it this way. Or I read it in a book, but the book's not, and I can close the book and it's not watching what I do. But the will of a devotee can be very direct, especially if we've taken this preliminary step of surrender that Arjuna showed. Okay, now he's accepted someone as a higher authority. Now if they tell him something, he has to listen. He's already put himself in that position. His heart has went into that position. So this is what it means to accept the will of the Lord, the will of the devotee who one respects, who one sees as someone who's instructive, that they can accept guidance from, the one who sees that this devotee is following a line of the parampara, is understanding the word of God as it is. So now what about the battle? Surrendered soul, the word of God, Maya, what about the battle? And I was thinking of this from my own, I suppose, realization or thought. If I was also thinking of, I thought of Maya, this image of a web came very strong. What happens when a bug gets stuck in a spider web? What happens? It's over. They struggle. The more they try to get out, what happens? The more they get entangled. And the spider finds them. And there's fear, because they know it's coming. So if we're tangled and we get up and we get caught up, it's more of a fight. It's more of an uphill battle. But what happens if we are surrenders, or we're working on the platform, we're working on the process of becoming a surrendered soul? And as a surrendered soul means there's a relationship with Krishna so fixed, so strong, so nourished, and so protected that there's no need to fight. They're so trusting and fixed in their relationship with Krishna that the idea of fighting against Maya really means I'm protected by you, my Lord. It really means you'll protect me, you'll take care of me because I trust you in that process. So where we're on the platform of love, love is the strongest energy, love is the strongest potency. Love really conquers all. So what is the battle with Maya? The battle with Maya is really the battle with our heart. How much can we love Krishna? How much can we express our devotion to the Supreme Lord? Because the more we can do that, what's the fight really? The fight is with ourselves. It's whether are we able to surrender to Krishna? Are we able to develop bhakti? Are we able to work our way up to bhava and prema? Are we able to really develop love for Krishna? Because this is the real battle. The rest is that which is not. It's Maya. It's only real if we think it is. But the real battle is we're here because we forgot Krishna. We're here because we turned our back to Krishna. And we have to battle against ourselves to be able to come back to the position where we say, no, Krishna, I want you. And this web of entanglement, I know I'll be protected. I know I'll be taken care of for. So then what does Prabhupada mean when he says often, this movement is waging war on Maya? And I was thinking, and I was looking at a few other instances where Srila Prabhupada made this statement. And he talked often the Krishna conscious movement, the movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we need to get as many soldiers as we can in this war against Maya to protect those who are entangled in the web. It was a compassionate war. It's a compassionate fight. It's a fight that we're trying to see others who are entangled in this web and snip the web and save them. And doing this primarily through the means of Harinam Sankirtan, Prashadam, book distribution, by helping the people of this world so caught up in Maya and the illusory energy of the God, in this web of entanglement, to see that there's something that's actually real and they're fighting against something that's not real. This is the war on Maya. And I want to end with a couple things. Last is a video from Prabhupada about surrender. But before that, there's a prayer that I feel is so wonderful. And I've heard it many times, especially in relation to preparing one's mind and heart in kirtan. It's Krishna Tamara Hana Yadi Bala Ekabhara. Maya Banda Haite Krishna Tare Karabhara. This is from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking to Sanatana Goswami. If one is immediately freed from the clutches of Maya, if he seriously and sincerely says, my dear Lord Krishna, although I have forgotten you for so many long years in the material world, today I am surrendering unto you. I am your sincere and serious servant. Please engage me in your service. If one sincerely and seriously says, my dear Lord Krishna, although I have forgotten you for so many long years in the material world, today I am surrendering unto you. I am your sincere and serious servant. Please engage me in your service. That is the war on Maya. That's how you overcome the war on Maya. I want to show this small video. You probably will start from minute, I think 2 minute 10 seconds. Yeah. Go ahead. Any way to make it a little louder? Bangla, Bulgarian. Font size. Sure, yeah, that's good. That's good. 200 is good. Yeah. Go back a little, just 10 seconds to get the question. Thank you.
We have been here for many lifetimes performing sinful activities. When the cost of the contract, all those sinful activities, one lifetime, or does it require 1 minute? That is Krishna consciousness. 1 minute. You are not reading Bhagavad Gita? What Krishna said? Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam saranam vrajata bhavata sarvapape bhavaksha. You surrender to me, give up your all business. I will give you relief from all sin. Immediately. Vedic has 1 minute. My dear Krishna, I was forgotten. Now I understand. I fully surrender. And you become immediately free from all sin. Without any reservation, without any politics. If you fully surrender, Krishna is assuring Ang twa sarvabhati, homo Krishna, Masucho, he reassures. Don't worry whether I will be able to give you relief from all tears. Masucho, it is guaranteed. You do this. So, how much time it requires to surrender to Krishna? Immediately you can do that. Surrender means you surrender and what as Krishna says. That is
Pause it there.
what Krishna said to do. Manmana
Oh, you can finish it. 1 minute.
Four things. You always think of me, you become my devotee, you worship me, and offer your respect, full obeisance, and you do these four things. That is full surrender. Mami Vashasi, Asamasa, then you come to me without any doubt. Everything is there. Krishna has given everything. If you accept it, then life is very simple. There is no difficulty.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments, or reflections?
So throughout your talk this morning, by the way, thank you very much for your wonderful class. I keep thinking of what keeps coming to mind is Prabhupada's analogy where he says that Krishna is like the sun and Maya is darkness. Wherever their sun is, there can be no dark. Wherever Krishna is, by his name, form, and so forth, there can be no Maya. And it really is that simple. The issue is, though, is that we don't always stay in that. We're not fixed. We're not steady in that state of mind. So it may take some time, and we have to keep, going back to that commitment to surrender. And as simple as always remembering Krishna and never forgetting him, because the disease is within the mind. And Krishna is that, Krishna consciousness is that, that sweet sugar candy that gets rid of the jaundice. And it may be bitter in the beginning, but if we will keep hearing, keep chanting, keep remembering, keep worshiping, eventually Krishna sees our effort, and not only does he give us that relief, but he'll fix and make us steady in that state of mind. Then everything becomes so easy.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Please.
There's something heard from Guru Govind Maharaj. He was telling a story, like, let's say you've heard like a folk tale where there's a fox or a jackal who's coming to hunt for like the goats. And so what happens is when the jackal comes, it catches the throat of the goat. So it cannot like shout for help anymore. Like, if the goat sees it and then asks for help, then something will arrive. But what the jackal does, the first thing is like catch its throat. So Maharaj was saying that's what happens when Maya catches you. Like you Hare Krishna Mahamantra is like you're pleading for help. But when Maya catches your throat, like you cannot call for help anymore. So he's saying that just watch out for the symptoms. That are you able to chant? Like, are you able to chant your rounds regularly? If you're not, that means Maya's got hold of you. Like, and so don't let that happen. Like, keep chanting, and then Krishna will hear the help and he'll save you.
Thank you. Watch for the symptoms. Otherwise, thank you. Anybody else? Any reflections or questions?
Speaking of, you were mentioning how devotees go through difficulties and still there's showing of surrenders that they keep practicing that aspect of showing surrender no matter through what the difficulties were. Just yesterday was Madhavendra Puri's disappearance day. Madhavendra Puri, Lord Chaitanya is the grand disciple of Madhavendra Puri. So there's the pastime of Madhavendra Puri going all the way to the Malaya hills to get chandan for his deities. And so I remember as through childhood, I always heard that pastime as, oh, he just went and came back, like it was fine, But there's a lot of, I just heard a pastime recently how much difficulty he had to go through because he had to go through different provinces and he had to go through toll collectors. He had to get these documents showing that he was, don't tax the sandalwood that I'm carrying. And he had to go through all these mundane, we hear Madhavendra Puri as this great acharya, but he had to go through these mundane activities that showed how much surrender.
Passport control.
Passport control, yeah.
No one is free from passport control.
Yeah.
Totally.
He just to follow the instruction of, I think it was Gopal telling him to bring sandalwood. And similarly, Prabhupada, just to follow the instruction of his guru, to go through so much mundane difficulties just to execute the instruction.
100%. And that's surrender. Surrender unto the will of a devotee. Prabhupada says often, if you search secret of success in database, the following sentence will be, secret of success is unflinching faith in the words of the spiritual master. That's secret of success is unflinching faith, and that's what it is. Madhavendra Puri, barefoot, 82 pounds of sandalwood, which is tens of thousands of dollars worth, 1,000 miles. It's really, it's something else. Certainly. I think we've hit our time, right? Any other questions? Okay, please.
So our Brahma is a great devotee, but I've also heard that we were all Brahma. I've asked this before to other people, but I still feel confused about it because our Brahma is such a great devotee. We were all Brahma once. Like, how can you be Brahma without being a great devotee? Because you won't manifest anything. It always says to manifest. And do you have any thoughts on that?
Ooh, good question. I'm looking at Rasika Prabhu. Like, help me. I haven't really actually ever thought of that before. Come to think of it. But I'll ask Rasika Prabhu and then Natavalma has hand also to add to the discussion.
So Brahma is a position. It's an office and a work from that office. So not necessarily every single Brahma is going to be the same personality. Everybody has their own, their own pathway. And certainly all the demigods are devotees, but also in that level, they eventually have to make their way down to take an earthly life, usually, in order to make their way back to Godhead. So it's entirely possible. Our Brahma made lots of mistakes, and he also exemplified incredible repentance after those mistakes, but it doesn't necessarily always happen.
I was just also thinking it's important to get our sources where we actually come as Brahma initially as well, like to make sure it's where in the Shastra that's mentioned. Maybe it is, or I don't know. So, is it purport? Just was thinking of that.
I may not be able to give you a direct answer, but I would follow something on Rasika Prabhu's answer about just because you're in a higher planetary system in this material world, perhaps a higher position, does not mean that you may have a better chance to go back to Godhead. And perhaps because we're on Earth and there's more of a material situation, or it's more affected by Maya in the sense that we discussed today doesn't necessarily mean that we have a less chance. And so we should think of our position now, regardless if we were in the position of Brahma at one point or not. The position now perhaps is the best position and opportunity we'll get in so many lifetimes to go back to Godhead, even if we were in the position of Brahma. Considering if we were and we're here now, which is a better position to go back to Krishna. So that's what I would take away. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
I was just thinking about Indra's example where Indra is also a devotee, but he often makes mistakes, and Indra is also a position. So same thing with Brahma, and oftentimes Indra is empowered to do all kinds of great things like Brahma, but just as you said, yeah, everybody has their own journey, and so there can be times when a devotee is empowered to do a lot of things, but then doesn't mean that like surrender is a continuous process. Like they can't get impacted. I guess that's what happened with us.
Yeah.
But yeah, Prabhupada mentions in one of the purpose that we're all Brahmas, and our particular Brahma is pure devotee, and it's destined to go back to God at the end of his life.
So it's very difficult. We've learned from the Shastras that it's very difficult in the heavenly planets to become materially exhausted because their level of capacity to enjoy, their capacity to enjoy and their facility for enjoyment is it's a totally different set of rules there than it is here. We're existing in a place that has very strict karmic reaction, which brings us to becoming materially exhausted very quick. And that's why demigods want to come here. They want to take a life here, because this is the place where it's the easiest to go back to Godhead.
That's a real good point. Also, what Sri Ram said, it's like saying which side of the boat did I fall off? You throw me, like preserve it. You know, so we have a human form of life now. We should not all Brahmans are Vaishnavas, in my understanding. And generally Brahma goes right back to Godhead after, but you know, if he's a Vaishnava, but sometimes they don't. And so in Hari Sari's diary, first volume, when the devotees asked Srila Prabhupada, if every living entity had its own universe, you know, how can that be? And Prabhupada said, "You rascal, you don't think Krishna can make it so every living entity has its own universe?"
It'd be a little inconceivable, right? Wrap it up there? Sure. Run throughout Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Thank you.